Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joyofbaking.com. Today we're going to make coconut marshmallows, and this is what they look like. So what we have is a really soft and spongy and sweet marshmallow, and we're going to cover that with toasted coconut, which makes it all nice and crispy. Really great combination of textures and flavors. So the first thing you will need to do is to preheat your oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 165 degrees Celsius. And you will need 3 cups, which is 200 grams of dried coconut. You can use either shredded or flaked. Now I'm going to use the unsweetened dried coconut today because I think the marshmallow is sweet enough, but you can use sweetened, either one. And just put it on a baking sheet. I've lined my baking sheet with a piece of parchment paper, but you could just either lightly oil or spray your baking sheet with one of those non-stick sprays, and just put your dried coconut in a nice even layer. And we want to toast it to like a caramel color. And that will take, now I'm using unsweetened, so I find I have to bake this for between 10 and 15 minutes. If you're using the sweetened, it may be a little less than that. Always watch very carefully because this will burn very easily. And then every about 5 minutes or so, take your coconut out and then kind of move it around because it tends to brown more around the edges before the center. So if you're using the unsweetened, between 10 and 15 minutes. Okay, so our coconut is now toasted. Isn't that a beautiful color? So just put your baking sheet on a wire rack. Now we're going to let this cool completely, and then when we come back, we will start our marshmallows. Okay, so now we're going to start making our marshmallow, but first you will need a 9-inch square baking pan that's 23 centimeters. Now you can just brush the whole inside of the pan with like an unflavored oil like canola, corn, vegetable, or I'm just going to spray it with one of these non-stick sprays. And then I'm just going to line the bottom of the pan with a little square of parchment paper. Makes it easier to get the marshmallow out. And then what we want to do is, now I have my coconuts nice and cool. Now I use the flake, which is kind of, as you can see, pretty big shreds here. So what I'm going to do is I just kind of break it up to make them smaller. Now if you want the bigger pieces of coconut, then you don't have to do this, but it's just a matter of personal preference. And then what we're going to do, I'm not going to actually measure this. What we want is a nice even layer of coconut on the bottom. So I think that would be about 3/4 of a cup, which is what, 180 milliliters of coconut, but really you don't need to measure. So that looks good. So let's put that aside. So now marshmallow, it's really, we're going to make a sugar syrup, and we're going to add it to some gelatin and whip it. It's amazing what we start with and how it ends. So you will need a medium-sized saucepan with a lid. Try to use a heavy bottom saucepan if you have one. And in your saucepan you will need 2 cups, 400 grams of granulated white sugar, just 1/4 teaspoon, 1 gram of salt. You will need a 1/2 cup, 120 milliliters just of water. And you will need 1 cup, which is 240 milliliters or 325 grams of a light corn syrup. You could also use a golden syrup here, and just put that in. And I'm just going to put this over medium-high heat and bring it to a boil. Now you want to stir it pretty constantly because we want that sugar to dissolve. So Now you can use, I'm using actually a silicone spatula. If you don't have that, use a wooden spoon would be fine. So as I'm stirring this, meanwhile, what you will need, I'm going to use my electric stand mixer with the whisk attachment. You could just use a hand mixer, so you could just use a large bowl. I am going to pour into my bowl a half a cup, 120 milliliters of cold water. And then what I'm going to do is just sprinkle over the top of my cold water 3 of these 1/4 ounce envelopes of unflavored gelatin, which will be 21 grams. Now, normally, when you go to the grocery store, if you live in the States, your gelatin will come in these little boxes. So you just need 3 of the 4 envelopes. So and then just sprinkle your gelatin over the top of your water, because the gelatin needs to what we call bloom, and that means it's going to absorb the water, and that's what we want. And that takes a little while, so that's why we're doing this now while we're making our sugar syrup. Give that a stir. Okay, and just let that sit, and then we'll continue on with our sugar syrup. Okay, so we are at a boil. So now I'm just going to adjust the heat, and then what I'm going to do is just put the lid on the pot and let that boil for about a minute. And what that's going to do, the steam, because I have the lid on, will wash down the sides of the pot, because if there's any undissolved sugar, we want to get rid of that. The other, if you don't have a lid, what you could do is just take some water with a pastry brush and wash down the sides of your pot to make sure that. But since we have a lid, we'll do this. Okay, so it's about a minute or so. Take the lid off. And now what we're going to do is we're going to boil this until it reaches 240 degrees Fahrenheit, 115 degrees Celsius. Now, that is the softball stage. And what I'm doing is you want a candy thermometer. You can have the digital type, or your more conventional, your mercury. And it's nice to have this handle on the back so you can just clip it onto the side of your saucepan. So we're just going to let it boil, just a nice boil, like not too much. You might have to adjust your heat a bit till it comes to 240 degrees Fahrenheit, 115 degrees Celsius. Okay, we are at 240. So, turn off the heat. Now, I forgot to say, when this is boiling, don't stir it. If you have to, just swirl your pan. So now, here's our gelatin. As you can see, it's absorbed all the water. So I'm just going to put that in. And then I'm just going to break it up a little with the mixer. Like so. And now, what we are going to do, take my probe out of there, is with the mixer running on slow speed, I'm going to gradually pour in my sugar syrup. Be very careful, this is hot. Okay. So, as you can see, this is very runny, it's very opaque looking, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to gradually increase, start it on like the low speed, but gradually bring it up to high speed once it starts to get thick. And I'm just going to beat it on high speed for probably 10 minutes, maybe more, depending on your mixer. And what's going to happen is it's going to get like a meringue, beautifully thick and white and shiny. So I've been beating this on high speed about 5 minutes. So we're maybe halfway done. So I thought I'd just show you. As you can see here, it's still quite, my bowl is still quite warm. And you can see it's still quite runny. But isn't that gorgeous? In 5 minutes, it's already changed a lot. So what we're going to do is beat it probably for another 5 minutes until this gets really nice and thick. Okay, so that's been with my mixer about 10 minutes. And as you can see, this is really thick. So that's what you're looking for. It's nice and shiny, beautiful. You can see it kind of looks like a meringue, really stiff meringue. So now we need some flavoring. I'm going to add 2 teaspoons, 8 grams of pure vanilla extract. And try to use the pure vanilla extract because the artificial flavors don't taste as good. If you wanted to, you could use another type of flavoring. And then, you don't have to, but I am going to color the marshmallow. I'm using a gel paste. You could use whatever type of food coloring you have. I'm using pink. I don't know, pink and marshmallow just seems to go together. And as you know, I'm just going to put a little. Let me put a little more. You can make it as dark, as light, or just, you can have it white. It's very nice as well. So I'm just going to beat that in. Some of that food coloring is around the outside, so I'm just going to use my spatula. Put that down because we want that coloring to go all the way through our marshmallow. You don't want like kind of streaks of the coloring. That looks pretty, oh, and that looks gorgeous. As you can see, you know, really, making homemade marshmallows is not that difficult, and they taste so much better than the store-bought. So now, what we're going to do is just pour our marshmallow into our pan where we have the toasted coconut on the bottom. It can be a sticky job here. Oh, gorgeous. You know, don't be intimidated about making marshmallow. I know sometimes you read instructions like on a recipe and kind of go, ooh, I can't do that. But as you can see from the video, it isn't difficult. And you know what? I find everyone is so impressed when you say they're homemade. It's just one of those things that people don't think you can make. Okay. So now, let's get a spoon here, and then just spread it as best as you can. You could do it in a larger pan, but I want really thick marshmallows. I think they look pretty cool that way. So there we have it, kind of even layer as best as you can. And now, as you can see, this bowl is kind of, all that marshmallow sticks on the bowl. Really, all you need to do is get some hot water and just pour it in there and let it sit for a bit, and that'll dissolve that and make it easy to clean your bowl. So now what we're going to do is just take some more of that delicious toasted coconut and put it over the top. Now, this is very, you know, we need to let this set at room temperature so it becomes nice and firm so we can cut the individual marshmallows. And that's going to take, I find, you know, 6-8 hours. Sometimes I let it sit overnight if I make them late in the day. So just nice even coating on top. Make sure you get it all. And then what I like to do is just gently pat so that the coconut adheres to your marshmallow. And that is it, really. So we're just going to let this sit. We're going to let it sit about 6, 8 hours till it's firm. And then when we come back, we will cut them into individual marshmallows. So it has been about 6 hours. Our marshmallow is now nice and firm. So we got to get it out of the pan. So I'm using just a spatula. You can just use a knife. Just run it on the inside just to make sure it's not sticking. And then I have a cutting board here because we will have to cut our marshmallows. So there we go. Just slides right out of the pan. It just came right off of the parchment paper that's still in there. So now, make sure, doesn't that look gorgeous? Okay, so now we got to cut into individual marshmallows. You can use, I like to use like just one of these pizza wheels. You could use a knife, or sometimes I've even used like kitchen shears. That's a good way to do it. And you can cut your marshmallows as large or as small as you want. So as you can see, pizza wheel does a really good job of getting through the marshmallow. So I'm just going to cut in half, and then I'm going to make large ones today. And we'll cut this again. And this one. You can see, cuts pretty easily. And then I'm just going to, each strip, I'm just going to cut. So we're going to get really large ones today. Okay, so you get the idea of what you're going to do. Now, as you can see, once we cut them, let's use my knife here, the sides are really sticky. So what I'm going to do, remember that we had some extra toasted coconut left over, so I just put that in a bowl. And then now all you need to do is just go around, pat it into the toasted coconut. And we have our marshmallow. And just do that to all of them. So let's try a bit. Let's take a little. I'll only take a little now, eat more later. But I'm going to just dip it all in so it's all the way around. Very nice. You got the sweet marshmallow, and I really love that kind of spongy texture. And then, the toasted coconut, it gets nice and crispy when you toast it. So I really like the contrast of that soft marshmallow with the crispy coconut. A really nice, I guess you'd kind of call it a candy. Maybe not. But, it's really good. And you can store these probably a week, 2 weeks at room temperature. So try these. And until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.